Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So yeah, I just thought I'll do an additional video with newer diagrams, because the previous ones I felt they were incorrectly drawn, and they were giving the impression that the ruqya was being done upon the sihr objects or the sihr ta'weez. Rather, the ruqya is done on oneself, to see if the first thing you normally check. Obviously, I don't want to go into too much detail, because the purpose of this video is just to give you a sort of like a summary of how the ruqya reactions work and how we gather the information that we need. So let's have a look at this diagram. The husband, as in my case, I checked myself first, and what was happening was I would first, let me just get my pen. I would first check, for instance, am I connected to the apricots? But I would recite on myself and I'd get no reactions. And then I would check if I'm connected to the clothes, but I'll recite on myself and I'll get no reaction. And then finally I will check to see if I'm connected to the doll, and I'll get significant reactions. So that's basically what was happening with me. Subhanallah. And in fact, the same was happening to the rest of my family. We were all consistently reacting to the doll. Like I said, upon opening the doll, it became very clear that this is indeed a sihr ta'weez as well as a sihr object. And once this was destroyed, we all got relief. Now, something worth mentioning here is that, again, I emphasized this in the last video, and it's not something I would advise one to do as an experiment, because ruqya has to be beneficial. We don't play around with it, with ruqya diagnosis. But if someone was to misplace that doll after we know it is connected to us, and it's still connected to us, it's been misplaced or it's been deliberately hidden again, it wouldn't take a lot to find it. In fact, you can stay exactly where you are and do a diagnosis and locate exactly where it's been hidden or placed. How can anybody explain that, logically speaking? You're not asking the help of the jinns. You are simply reading the Quran, and you are using the intentions to sort of to navigate to guide that recitation where it hits the intended target. It's impossible for someone to scientifically explain how one is able to do this, and it's done consistently. I had a case just under about a year ago, where I came across someone that I could have, maybe my next slide or something, or at some point I will be sharing the actual ta'weez we have found via advanced ruqya diagnosis. But with this individual who was on the verge of death, in the previous 12 to 18 months, she had suddenly been diagnosed with diseases which even the doctors, they were confused as how is she getting this. She got type 1 diabetes in her 40s. All of a sudden her body's not absorbing the vitamins and minerals. The doctors knew what was happening, they just didn't know why it was happening or how it was happening, as in they didn't know the cause of it. And there was a plethora of other illnesses this individual had just picked up, to the point she was passing out whilst driving, or she was passing out in the kitchen, and she ended up breaking her back in 3 places from passing out so violently. Her driving license was revoked. Now, I've trained this individual to perform advanced ruqya diagnosis, and she found that she was suffering from sihr. And then I helped I helped her locate where this ta'weez was hidden, this contract with the jinns, and it was actually in the house. Now she messaged me and she was saying, well, the advanced Ruqya diagnosis is pointing towards my bed as being the location where something is hidden. So she was confused, like, is her bed the ta'weez? I mean, it's possible to have large objects as ta'weez or sihr objects, and we've got ways of dealing with them. However, I suggested that she thoroughly checks the bed, because most likely there's something hidden in or around the bed. So the way the Ruqya diagnosis works is it's consistent. She was checking other places in the house and the results were coming back as the negative. However, when she was checking the bed, the reactions were significant. And upon further investigation, it was a leather bed that she had. She found a slit at the back of the bed. I believe the back of the bed, which was against the wall. And in that slit, there was a piece of paper which was clearly a ta'weez. Like, for someone who's Iraqi, I looked at it and said, that's a ta'weez. I believe, I need to double check it, but it had like grids, strange tables and stuff on it. I need to double check it. But what was interesting was one side of that paper simply stated Surah Yasin. Now, someone who's innocent or unaware, or an unsuspecting victim would look at that piece of paper and assume it's something innocent. They wouldn't think it's something malicious. But because we've got the tool of Ruqya diagnosis, we know better. Once she did try to do further investigation into this piece of paper, she was violently sick. But the point I'm trying to make here is she destroyed it, and she got off most of her medication on that very day. And the last time I checked, her blood works have come back clear. She's got her driving license back, and she's totally healthy. All her health issues that appeared out of nowhere have just disappeared. So this is real knowledge which is effective, and we get actual results by using this method, and it's something that gives us the upper hand over the magicians, because sometimes the magicians will use methods to latch sihr onto us which we wouldn't even think of. Like, we know some magicians, they would put the ta'weez in a USB in the form of a file. But how would we know this? How would the Ruqya diagnosis allows us to stay one step ahead of them. We know all the methods they use pretty much, or most of them, to latch the sihr on. And it's because of the Ruqya diagnosis that we have. Alhamdulillah. Previously I was explaining this diagram, which I've changed this as well. It's an individual who is suffering from sihr and jinn. He's predominantly suffering from sihr and ayn, and with both of these spiritual diseases comes their respective jinns, which are latched on to the victim. Now, as you can see, the sihr is gathered in one area and the ayn is gathered in another area, and that's how it is. We have found that the spiritual diseases seem to gather in certain areas. I mean, they're not fixed areas, but it's just how it is. It's like the ayn might find a safe haven in the leg, the sihr may find a safe haven in the stomach, and that's how it is. But it's not always like this. It can be scattered as well. So the point here is the Ruqya has bypassed all the ayn or all the ayn jinns. It's beelining for the sihr and the sihr jinns. Yes, so the method, alhamdulillah, is accurate, and all it requires is one to manipulate their intentions accordingly. Alhamdulillah. So in the next session, I will be going into more detail about the reference point, which is the third most important element of of the Ruqya diagnosis. Without it, really, you cannot perform a Ruqya diagnosis. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullah.